Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to break down two really powerful ways to protect your future in South Africa. One is for your assets, and the other is for your loved ones. It's a huge question, right? Something we all think about. How do you make sure that the people and the things you care about are looked after no matter what happens? Well, the good news is the law gives us some very specific tools to do just that. Let's explore what they are. Okay, let's dive right in. It really boils down to two key concepts. On one side, you've got trusts. These are all about protecting your assets, your property, your investments, you name it. And on the other side, you have curators. They're appointed to protect a person when they can't look after themselves. Two different tools for two very different but equally important jobs. First up, let's tackle trusts. This is all about safeguarding your wealth and making sure it's managed exactly the way you want it to be. So the first big one you need to know about is the Inter Vivos Trust, which a lot of people just call a living trust. And the key thing here, the name kind of gives it away, is that it's created during the lifetime of the person setting it up. You do this while you're alive, maybe to shield your assets or just to make your estate planning a whole lot smoother down the road. And then you've got the Testamentary Trust. As the name suggests, this one is part of a testament, or a will. It's basically a set of instructions tucked inside your will that only springs into action after you've passed away. This is a really common way to protect an inheritance for kids, to make sure the money is managed properly until they're old enough to handle it themselves. Okay, so when you see them laid out like this, it becomes super clear, right? It really all comes down to timing and purpose. The Inter Vivos Trust is something you actively manage while you're alive. Think of it as playing financial defense. The Testamentary Trust, on the other hand, is a plan that kicks in later. It's all about making sure your legacy is handled exactly the way you wanted. So, this leads to a really interesting and super common question. What happens if the person in charge of the trust, the trustee, is also one of the people who gets the benefits from it? I mean, is that even allowed? And the short answer is, yeah, you can. But, and this is a big but, it's not a free-for-all. The law is super strict about this and has some really important safeguards in place to make sure there's no funny business. So what are those safeguards? Well, it all starts with this number, 2. This simple number is really the bedrock of accountability here. It's designed to stop one person who has a personal stake from having all the power. Here's how it works. First off, you almost always need at least 2 trustees. So if one of them is also a beneficiary, you have to have another independent trustee watching over things. Second, the trust's own rulebook, that's the trust deed, has to specifically say that this is okay. And finally, and this is crucial, that trustee beneficiary has to back away from any decision where their personal interests might clash with their duties to the trust. And none of this works unless it's official. To make a trust legally legit, you've got to register it with the Master of the High Court. This means getting all your ducks in a row with the paperwork. You've got your original trust deed, a bunch of specific forms, sworn acceptances from the trustees, and a clear list of who all the beneficiaries are. All right, let's switch gears. We've talked about protecting property. Now let's shift our focus to protecting a person. And this is where the idea of curatorship comes into play. So what exactly is a curator? Well, a curator is someone the High Court appoints to step in when a person, maybe due to a serious illness, a disability, or just old age, simply can't manage their own life anymore. The curator is there to make those important decisions for them. And it's not a one-size-fits-all role. There are actually 3 main types, which this table breaks down perfectly. First up, you have the curator bonus, and an easy way to remember that is bonus for money. This person handles all the financial stuff. Then there's the curator ad personam, who looks after the person's actual well-being, making calls on things like medical care. And finally, you have a curator ad litem, who's appointed for a very specific job, to represent someone's interests in a single court case. Okay, so we've looked at trustees for assets and curators for people. They seem like totally different jobs, right? But they are both held together by the exact same, incredibly powerful principle. And it all comes down to one core concept, fiduciary duty. This is the absolute heart of both roles. It's not just a suggestion, it's a legal and ethical promise to always put the other person's interest first. It demands total honesty, care, and good faith. No exceptions. This quote just nails it, really. It doesn't matter if you're managing a complex property portfolio or deciding on the best nursing home. This is the unwavering standard. It's the ultimate litmus test for every single decision. Is this in their best interest? And that brings us full circle, right back to that first big question we asked.
We've seen that these legal tools are here to give us security and peace of mind. So the only thing left to do is to think about how they might fit into your own plans. So take a moment and ask yourself, is your legacy truly protected?